The next VLGA member-exclusive Lunch and Learn session is on Friday the 27th of March, a free event exploring psychosocial hazards and the Council's role as the CEO's employer. Attendees will gain insight into new legislation, understanding the impact of culture, workload and role clarity, and ensuring appropriate systems of support and accountability are in place. Join the VLGA's Head of Local Government Programs and Policy, Dawn Bray, and Managing Partner from Justicia Lawyers, Melissa Scadden, as they break down the responsibilities of councillors under this emerging piece of legislation. It's on Friday the 27th of March from 12 to 1 p.m, a member-exclusive Lunch and Learn session from the VLGA. Details at vlga.org.au. Coming up on the Roundup, deadlock broken. Wyndham finally elects a new mayor. Controversial policy updates go through at Hobsons Bay. Kingston Council moves ahead with plans to tighten notice of motion rules. The death of a long-serving New South Wales councillor. Peak bodies call for certainty on fuel supplies for the regions. Clamping down on rogue drivers on beaches. And we go inside the MAV's new sector-wide campaign ahead of the Victorian state election. Hello, I'm Chris Eddy, back with more of the Local Government News Roundup, Australia's #1 local government podcast. Also today, how some councillors are faring in the South Australian state election. Our podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. It's Wednesday the 25th of March. Thank you for joining me wherever you're listening around Australia or across the world. In Victoria, firstly, Wyndham City Council has finally elected a new mayor and a deputy mayor at the third attempt. The council reconvened on Monday night to attempt to break a deadlock after two failed attempts to achieve an absolute majority at a meeting last week. Former Deputy Mayor Councillor Preet Singh has now been elected to serve out the remainder of the current mayoral term, which expires late this year. That followed an arbiter ruling of misconduct against former Mayor Councillor Josh Gilligan, which saw a 1-month suspension imposed, effectively vacating the office of mayor. Councillor Jasmine Hill was elected deputy mayor. In both cases, the successful candidates received 6 votes. Meanwhile, at Marybeck Council, a similar scenario is playing out. A special council meeting is scheduled for this evening to elect a new deputy mayor. That office became vacant after Councillor Jay Iwasaki was suspended for 1 month as a result of an arbiter's finding of misconduct against him. Greater Geelong councillors last night deferred consideration of a proposal to change the rules relating to councillors running in state or federal elections. A motion before last night's meeting calls on the Municipal Association of Victoria to push for legislative reforms requiring sitting councillors to take mandatory leave if they run for state or federal parliament. The proposal also flags suspending councillor allowances during that leave and adjusting quorum rules so council business can keep moving. A deferral motion was proposed and ultimately passed to allow for further investigation and consultation on the issue. 2 Greater Geelong councillors, Ron Nelson and former Mayor Trent Sullivan, are seeking Liberal pre-selection for the upcoming state election. Councillor Nelson has stepped down from the deputy mayoralty but remains on council. The Geelong Advertiser reported that Councillor Sullivan has gained the endorsement of former Premier Dennis Napthine for pre-selection for the Liberals in the upper house seat of Western Victoria over current shadow local government minister Bev MacArthur. A raft of updated policies were on the agenda of Hobsons Bay City Council's meeting last night, including one covering councillor candidature at state or federal elections. The policy, which was adopted, requires nominated candidates to apply for a leave of absence no later than their formal nomination as a candidate. Prospective candidates are expected to notify the council's CEO in writing and, as soon as practicable thereafter, declare their intended candidacy at a council meeting. Getting more attention ahead of the meeting were proposed new rules that some councillors said could effectively muzzle them. An updated media policy confirms the Mayor as the Council's principal spokesperson and requires other councillors to seek the Mayor's approval before speaking to the media. A separate councillor confidentiality policy classifies briefing agendas and papers as internal documents, not for public release. Deputy Mayor Lisa Bentley told The Age the council is being strong-armed under state intervention. The council is currently under the oversight of municipal monitors. But a spokesperson told The Age that councillors can still express personal views and defended protocols for briefings that need to stay a safe place for frank discussion. The policies received some opposition in the chamber, but they were passed after debate. And Kingston Council is weighing a series of strengthened rules regarding notices of motion, or NOMs. At the heart of the proposal is a move toward much stricter gatekeeping. If adopted, councillors would need 3 signatories and must prove their facts with credible references. The timeline for reintroducing failed ideas would also be extended, potentially a 6-month cooling-off period before a motion could be brought back. Perhaps the most controversial part of the report involves CEO rejection powers. Right now, the CEO can only refuse a motion for technical reasons like defamation or vagueness. The proposed new rules would allow the CEO the green light to reject a motion if it interferes with day-to-day operations, threatens the council's reputation, or impacts service levels and workplace safety. Also under consideration is a veto power for the Mayor in the case of controversial motions that have already cleared the CEO's desk. The changes are aimed at ensuring motions are financially responsible and legally sound before they ever reach a public vote. The council is divided over the proposals, narrowly voting to send them for review as part of updating the governance rules, but there was no debate on the matter at all in the chamber. Public consultation is expected to follow once a formal draft is prepared. At its Monday night meeting, the council also adopted terms of reference for a governance and cultural improvement working group to operate while municipal monitors are in place. There was no debate on that item either, and Mayor Georgina Oxley also noted that Councillor Hardy Saab was only present online for the vote on both items and was absent during debate by virtue of having his camera turned off. Now let's catch up on some other news from around the state. Gannawarra Shire Council says new compulsory acquisition powers for transmission projects risk stripping farmers of due process by letting companies move before environmental assessments are complete. The Victorian Parliament has amended the Electricity Industry Act, enabling earlier land acquisition for major lines like V&I West. And Mayor Garner Smith says the changes further damage the project's already fragile social licence in a shire likely to be heavily impacted from mallee farms to dairying near the Murray. Farmers in Victoria's Mallee are counting the cost of a major rain event this month, and Swan Hill Rural City Council says they need the same disaster help as their neighbours. Mayor Councillor Stuart King says crops have been damaged, incomes have been cut off and businesses are under acute financial stress right in the middle of harvest. Mildura has been declared eligible for recovery relief, but Councillor King says disaster doesn't stop at council boundaries, and Swan Hill is pushing for immediate grants, concessional loans, repairs to irrigation, drainage and access roads, and practical biosecurity support. And in fire-hit Murrindindi Shire, the council is warning recovery could stall if diesel and fertiliser become scarce or unaffordable. Mayor Councillor Damien Gallagher says fuel underpins the basics, fencing, clean-up, freight and farm work, after the catastrophic January bushfires. He says producers are already stretched and another cost shock would slow the work of getting people back on their feet. The council is also urging action on nitrogen fertiliser, saying there's a narrow window to restore pasture and stabilise damaged land. It wants priority access for recovery and farm users and time-limited support to steady prices and supply. And Regional Cities Victoria has urged Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen to spell out how the country will keep fuel flowing to the regions. It says Australia has not met the International Energy Agency's Strategic Reserve benchmark since 2012, leaving regional households, businesses and farmers exposed if supply lines are disrupted. RCV also argues policy choices and consumer trends are adding pressure, including the ongoing shift to larger vehicles and a freight system that still leans heavily on roads instead of rail. Similar messages coming out of New South Wales. More on that in just a little while. With the Victorian state election approaching, the Municipal Association of Victoria is urging MPs and candidates to focus on what councils say communities need most. The campaign sets out 5 priorities, including connected housing, safer roads and local transport, and stronger support for councils to keep delivering as climate and cost pressures grow. Joining me now to talk about how the campaign was developed and its aims is the MAV's Director of Strategic Foresight and Partnerships, Kat Panjari. Kat, this campaign has 5 key future pillars. It's an ambitious blueprint for all 79 Victorian councils. How have you worked with the sector to distill what must have been hundreds of local issues into these 5 specific pillars?
Well, Chris, you're right. There were hundreds of issues that we started talking about when we first embarked on shaping up this campaign in about August last year, actually. So we started talking to the advocacy leads in each council and had a very blue sky kind of workshop with them face to face and online so that we could get that really great spread across the state. Now, some of those smaller rural councils, it's the CEO who's the advocacy lead. So we had a wide range of people starting off that discussion. And we literally had the hundreds of issues that are impacting on councils right now from, as you mentioned, we've got climate volatility, emergency response and preparedness. There's all sorts of demographic shifts happening in communities, in costs, digital disruption, all those issues that we know. The cost shifting, no doubt, came up a lot. We then took those key themes from those first workshops and ran them past the 79 CEOs and distilled with them sort of what would the priorities be from their lens. And you can appreciate that financial sustainability really rose to the top, the expanding expectations of communities for the services that they're seeing delivered in their local communities. We took their ideas and that distilled list through to mayors and ran some online sessions with mayors at the time prior to the changeover happening in November last year. They helped us refine that list even further. Then we took it to a state council meeting where we had our 79 delegates actually vote on the things that were emerging as the top priorities across the state. Time and time again, we hear from state government that there's no point one council coming cap in hand. You have to speak with a united voice. You have to speak on behalf of the sector. So it was really important for us to find those 5 top priorities or 3 top priorities. We didn't have a number, but we landed on the 5 that just kept rising to the top for each council across the state. So there's no surprise that we've got housing and the community infrastructure that supports that being a real issue in a rate-capped environment. No surprise that roads across the state are holding back productivity and there are significant safety issues in many parts of the state with our state-managed roads. We're hearing time and time again that the state's investment hasn't gone into those state arterial roads. It has been drawn into those other big build projects, which, are really important from a state perspective, but councils are feeling that at the local level that investment hasn't happened in those state roads. We heard about the fragmentation in communities that's happening across the state. So this social cohesion, fragmentation and fracturing occurring. And that plays out in very different contexts depending on which councils you talk to, but it's happening across the board. So whether it's water buyback schemes happening in the northern part of the Murray-Darling area of Victoria, the basin, or whether it's the energy transition that's happening in other parts of rural Victoria, or safety issues happening perhaps in some of our metropolitan councils. What has been a very welcome surprise has been the desire and appetite from mayors and CEOs to do things differently.
Right.
And to realise that the future of local government in Victoria, that we need to shape that we can't wait for the state government or another level of government or any other institution, if you like, to determine that, and that we need to come up with those ideas. That has been it's been a fantastic insight to hear about how sub-regional models of joining up investment and joining up strategic planning is happening, and the desire for that to be more formalised and for governments to recognise that that could be a viable, sustainable model moving forward.
You talk about the MAV Innovation Case Study Library now having 160 examples of council excellence. I'm wondering how you will use these case studies, these proof points, if you like, through this campaign to get through to state candidates that councils are the most efficient partners for delivering solutions on a
Yeah,
statewide basis.
it's such a fantastic resource. I'd encourage all of your listeners to jump online and on the MAV website and have a look at those case studies. So we will use those case studies to bring this campaign to life. It's the colour and the movement that we need to really demonstrate what local communities are experiencing on the ground through council innovation. And even in a very tightly financially constrained context and a rate capped environment, councils are still innovating to meet the needs of their local communities. I think that's the really strong message. And they're coming up with those local solutions for those global challenges that are impacting on them. So we will invite mayors to those meetings with candidates in their local communities and the sitting MPs, the incumbents and the candidates, and we'll invite mayors to share those case studies with those candidates that we talk to so that they can really, again, bring the community lens to what's happening in their electorate and make this campaign come to life for them.
I can see that could be a really effective way of empowering those local mayors and CEOs to engage with candidates. Of course, it would help to have local voters understanding those issues as well when they get to on polling day to be making their decision. Will this campaign help councils talk to communities about these issues and who might be best to support those things that they care about going forward?
We hope so. We really hope so, Chris. We hope that local councillors and mayors can use this as an umbrella to umbrella the issues that are happening in their local communities, like roads and community infrastructure and all those things that we talked about as being important, and to call out where we do have a candidate or a party that puts their support behind one of our key pillars.
Good.
We'll be really, as I say, calling that out to encourage other incumbents or candidates to do the same. We want to try to build a level of support and for our local mayors and councillors to showcase that where that's happening.
So when the polls close in November, what does a win look like here in terms of outcomes? How are you hoping to be able to measure success?
We will measure success when we have the state government of the day realise and recognise just how important local government is as a critical partner to achieving their state objectives. They can't do what they set out to do without councils being a really critical recognised partner. Ideally, we would love to see an accord signed between the local government sector and the state government, which would create a level of formality of when the state government is developing policy, for example, that they really must consult with the local government sector in a more in-depth way than perhaps they have recently. We'd love to see that accord signed. We'd love to see a policy shift around the energy transition occurring and the critical mineral mining transition occurring across the state, where councils are at the table determining what community benefit looks like and what legacy benefit and what community dividends look like. That would be a great win. That's not a funding ask, that's a policy shift that we want to see. And then we do need to see funding flow through. We do need to see that win where councils are supported to provide the community infrastructure for the growing housing. State arterial roads are invested in those communities, and that the transformation of the local government sector to be future fit to invest in options like AI are also co-funded by the state to really recognise the benefits of that. For the 7 million residents in Victoria, it's not just individual councils, it's the whole state that will benefit from those sorts of efficiencies if we can get them across the line.
I think your comments about the engagement with the sector are really interesting in light of the findings of that parliamentary inquiry recently that found that engagement could have been more meaningful, and particularly we're talking about planning reforms, we're talking about the introduction of the emergency services levy, etc. And I think in light of the fact that Tasmania just very recently has gone down the path of an agreement with local government, are you hopeful or optimistic that there's a bit of a shift back to that level of engagement at the local level? It seems to be happening elsewhere.
It's been a long-standing thing in Queensland, and they have had great success with their accord. I don't know that it's called an accord there. As you say, we've seen it happen in Tasmania, and we really talk a lot with the local government minister in particular, and we're very keen to talk to the shadow minister about this even further. We see that where there is structured engagement, you do get strengthened service delivery. There's a two-way dialogue in shaping that policy, but you also have the social licence that councils can bring to those sorts of big reform agendas that a state government might want to bring that they can't do at the state level that we can do at a council level. So there's immense benefits to the state to have that kind of engagement framework set up that is more formalised. And it doesn't mean they have to fund everything that local government wants, but it just sets up a very different partnership approach to seeing councils as a critical partner, a critical service provider, a critical delivery partner.
Indeed.
For achieving their objectives, yeah.
Got to keep pushing the message, and we're not reinventing the wheel here, Kat. The future is local, the time is now. I guess we've heard various versions of that in the past, but it's very timely right now in a state election year to be reinforcing those messages. Thanks so much for your time. Well done on the work that you've done over a long period of time to bring all this together. I hope it bears fruit.
Pleasure, Chris, and I'll be keen to chat to you further down the campaign to see how we're actually tracking with some of those key pillars that we're putting forward to state candidates.
That'd be terrific. Love to have you back. Thank you, Kat Panjari from the MAV.
You're listening to the Local Government News Roundup, episode number 567 for Wednesday, the 25th of March. And we're moving on to the New South Wales report now. Starting with sad news, flags have been flying at half-mast across the Port Macquarie Hastings municipality following the death of long-serving councillor Lisa Interman. Councillor Interman passed away at John Hunter Hospital on Friday. First elected in 1995, she served 7 terms on council, remembered by Mayor Adam Roberts as a passionate advocate who dedicated her life to the region. The council says it will work with the community to find a permanent way to honour her decades of service. Vale, Councillor Lisa Interman. Councils across New South Wales say a fuel squeeze could quickly become a services problem, from bins and buses to water and sewerage. Local Government New South Wales President Inner West Mayor Darcy Byrne is urging the state to prioritise fuel supplies for councils, especially if emergency fuel declarations are triggered. Councillor Byrne has written to Environment Minister Penny Sharp, warning remote councils are already under heavy financial pressure and could be hit first as independent retailers come under strain. He says disruptions to garbage collection, roadworks and community transport would fall hardest on vulnerable communities. LG New South Wales has raised the issue at a New South Wales fuel security round table with the Premier and industry. A small dirt ramp at Diamond Park has become a big flashpoint in Wodonga, with boaties angry it's set to close under a $5 million creek activation project, according to a report from the Border Mail. The plan adds playgrounds, paths and road changes under the Hume Freeway, but regular users say it's the only easy way to launch into Wodonga Creek. Submissions to Wodonga Council call the move a loss for local fishing and tourism, and they say many people did not know it was coming. Mayor Michael Goebel says the council is open to investigating a new ramp downstream, but any site would need funding and approvals. The City of Randwick has provided more information about its proposal to charge visitors for parking at the beach. People who live outside the area will pay to park at 7 beachside locations, including Coogee, Maroubra and Clovelly. Residents would be exempt through a free permit, likely one per household, with visitor and carer permit options still being explored. The council will study spillover impacts on nearby streets and report back to councillors around mid-year. The City of Wollongong has moved to temper expectations amid speculation about a potential V8 supercars street circuit event in the city. It says it wants major sporting events and has been in high-level discussions with Destination New South Wales and V8 supercars. While it's been weighing the feasibility work the events would require, the council says it has not received any formal submission or application, meaning there's nothing on the table yet to assess in any detail. In the meantime, the city says it will keep working with Destination New South Wales to explore opportunities aimed at boosting local business and bringing visitors into the region. And Singleton's heated indoor pool is staying on the agenda, even as serious structural damage forces a rebuild. The council has ruled out permanently closing the 25-metre pool at Singleton Gym and Swim and has approved the immediate demolition of its dome enclosure after engineers found critical roof deterioration. An extra $2.9 million has been added, taking the total budget to $6.68 million, according to Power FM. And Mayor Sue Moore says the focus is reopening as quickly as possible after the pool was shut and drained last November for upgrades. The council will consider long-term options next month. More swimming pool news heads the briefs. Tamworth Regional Council is progressing plans for a new year-round aquatic centre at Hillview, designed as a community hub for sport education and health. It's brought Richard Crook's Constructions into the design phase to refine costings and reduce risks, with enabling works underway and a final budget and funding vote due by June. The City of Parramatta has opened its first community recycling centre in North Parramatta, giving locals a free place to drop off problem waste, including paint, batteries, gas bottles and other items. The $13 million facility is funded by the Council and the New South Wales EPA. And Clarence Valley councillors have unanimously backed installing 2 green seats as part of a national initiative to raise awareness of long-term missing persons. The region currently has 24 missing persons and unresolved cold cases under investigation. Council staff will report back before the April meeting on costs and available funding. The Local Government News Roundup is brought to you by the VLGA, which is holding one of its member-exclusive lunch and learn sessions this Friday, a free event exploring psychosocial hazards and the council's role as the CEO's employer. Attendees will gain insight into new legislation, understanding the impact of culture, workload and role clarity, and ensuring appropriate systems of support and accountability are in place. The VLGA's head of local government programs and policy, Dawn Bray, and managing partner of Justicia Lawyers, Melissa Scadden, will break down the responsibilities of councillors under this emerging piece of legislation. You can register for the Lunch and Learn session on the VLGA website. Head to vlga.org.au. To Queensland now, the Courier Mail has reported that Gympie Regional Council is among 7 councils that did not finalise their 2024-25 books by October 31st, delaying its annual report and preventing auditors from assessing 5-year trends. Mayor Glenn Hartwig says a new external auditor has revisited past records and that extra review time is now needed. Chief Executive Robert Jennings said the hold-up relates to historic grants recognition and insists there are no concerns about cash balances or sustainability. Gympie now has until March 31st next year to complete the statements. For neighbours in Torrington, the smell and noise from a plastics recycler has become impossible to ignore, and Toowoomba Regional Council says it's stepping in. After investigating a surge of complaints, the council has issued an enforcement notice under Queensland's Planning Act, ordering Circular Communities Australia to immediately stop processing and remove materials blamed for an environmental nuisance beyond the site boundary. CEO Sal Petricito says the message is clear: businesses must operate within approved conditions. The council says it supports recycling and innovation, but not at the expense of local amenity. Queensland's biggest proposed copper mine has cleared another hurdle, with the Eva Copper project declared a large resource project under the Strong and Sustainable Resource Communities Act. Inside Local Government reports that the Crisafulli government has also extended its prescribed project status, giving the Coordinator-General 2 more years until March 25th, 2028, to help streamline approvals. Mount Isa Mayor Peter McRae says the council will keep working with Harmony Gold to make sure the region sees lasting community benefits. And Cloncurry Mayor Greg Campbell says the designation should help secure local jobs, local procurement and long-term gains. And Moreton Bay is turning a patch of council land into an education precinct, bringing university and vocational training side by side. A new TAFE Centre of Excellence and Advanced Manufacturing Hub, backed by the Queensland Government, is set to join Uni SC's Moreton Bay campus. Mayor Peter Flannery says the vision has been in place since the site was acquired in 2015, creating local pathways into skilled jobs. The council has also confirmed ongoing scholarships and bursaries, with recipients now recording a 95% completion rate. Whipping round the rest of the nation, it was meant to be an historic home game, and it was. North Hobart Oval sold out at about 11,000 for the Tasmania Devils' first VFL match, the first played in the state since 2008. But Independent MP David O'Byrne says Hobart City Council's failure to invest in exits and facilities is a disgrace and cost the venue the chance to host more fans. But Chief Executive Michael Stretton said the cap is set by modern safety rules, including an 8-minute evacuation standard and code requirements for dozens more toilets and basins. Mr Stretton says the sellout is a compelling reason to consider upgrades. More on that story from Pulse Tasmania. Adelaide Plains Deputy Mayor David Payton has become the first One Nation candidate to be elected to State Parliament in South Australia. Councillor Payton has picked up the seat of Nadgerry with 58% of the vote, two-candidate preferred, ahead of the ALP's Tony Piccolo. Adelaide Plains Council is yet to make any statement about the result. It's due to meet today with the election of an acting mayor on its agenda. Former Mid-Murray Mayor and Labor candidate Simone Bailey is in a tight race for the seat of Hammond, currently ahead of the One Nation candidate on first preferences by around 50 votes. And in MacKillop, Mount Gambier councillor and One Nation candidate Jason Virgo is ahead of the Liberal candidate on first preferences as counting continues. Drive-on access at Sellex Beach is being reined in as Onkaparinga Council moves to block rogue drivers from restricted zones. Adelaide Now reported that 29 timber bollards will be installed at the southern end of the beach at a cost of $26,000. It follows years of non-compliance and a reported near miss involving a child on Boxing Day. 75% of locals back the move, but environmental agency Green Adelaide says it doesn't go far enough. A shock for Kangaroo Island this week, with Yumbar announcing it will close its abalone farm after more than 3 decades. Mayor Michael Pengilly says it's a terrible day for jobs and for the island's aquaculture industry. The company says an algal bloom and the Carenia virus have made operations unsustainable. Councillor Pengilly has urged state and federal governments to back research and development at the site to keep the facility in productive use. A council vacancy in the Adelaide Hills will be filled by a recount. The Electoral Commission of South Australia will run a recount for the Rangers ward on April 7 after Mayor Nathan Daniels' February win created a new councillor vacancy. Because it falls within 12 months of a supplementary election, the law requires preferences from the last election to be redistributed until a quota is reached. 5 candidates have confirmed they are eligible to be included. Now let's go to WA. In Port Hedland, the wet season is bringing a familiar nuisance and a public health reminder. The town has switched on its mosquito management program, with officers monitoring breeding sites and larviciding drains, wetlands and standing water. This year, drones are helping treat large or hard-to-reach areas safely. While residents are urged to do their part, the town will keep fogging and testing mosquitoes for diseases seen in the Pilbara and the Kimberley. Verge collections are being redesigned in East Fremantle after the town struggled to secure contractors under its set-date bulk waste model. From July 1st, the town of East Fremantle will trial a 2-year on-demand Verge valet service, letting residents choose collection days that suit them. Mayor Tony Natali says the current approach is no longer fit for purpose. The trial will run until June 30, 2028. The City of Belmont has won an IPWIA WA Excellence in Water Projects Award for renewing the ornamental lakes in the Fawkner Civic Precinct. Mayor Robert Rossi says the project shows the city's commitment to high-quality infrastructure that benefits the community and the environment. In the Ferguson Valley, the Shire of Dardanup is launching a 3-month trial of a 24-hour caravan and RV stopover bay at Ferguson Hall. Shire President Councillor Tyrrell Gardner says it's designed to support tourism and give fully self-contained travellers a safe overnight option while they explore the area. And the Shire of Manjimup is also looking to attract the RV market, having endorsed a staged RV-friendly town plan, starting with designated overnight parking in Manjimup, with expansion plans once the model is tested. The first sites are expected to open in September. Support for the roundup comes from Symphony 3, which allows councils to connect their systems securely, to automate their data flows and to monitor performance in real time. Councils around the country are working hard to keep their communities safe and prepared before, during and after emergencies. And in recent months, Symphony 3 has worked with councils across Victoria, including Greater Bendigo, Mildura, Ararat, Alpine and Golden Plains, to create emergency dashboards, pulling together live data, including weather, traffic, emergency incidents, unplanned and planned disruptions, news and social media feeds. An emergency dashboard is cost-effective and can be deployed in just 3 days. Find out more at www.symphony3.com. Now for some stories of interest from overseas in our global report. In the UK, firstly, Woking's town centre makeover was meant to be a showpiece, but now the council behind it is trying to sell it off. BBC News reports that Woking Borough Council in Surrey, which has declared itself effectively bankrupt, is marketing key regeneration assets, including Victoria Square and its new Hilton Hotel, and some other major sites. The authority says it's carrying debts of about £2.6 billion. Deputy Leader Dale Roberts says the goal is to cut the debt and get the council onto a more stable footing. School uniforms are a big household expense, and children often outgrow items before they're worn out. London's 4 statutory waste authorities have launched a school uniform reuse network to help schools set up swap shops and pre-loved uniform sales, and to keep good clothing out of the bin. Funded through London Council's climate program, the network offers a new website with practical guides, case studies and tools to measure impact. Vice Chair of London Council's Transport and Environment Committee, Councillor Rosina Chowdhury, says the aim is to make reuse visible and easy, easing financial pressure while cutting waste. The scheme also prepares schools for new rules due from September, requiring them to ensure all parents are made aware of where second-hand uniforms can be purchased. In Texas, in the US, the city of Corpus Christi is running out of time on water, with city modelling showing emergency cuts could be needed as soon as May, according to Texas Public Radio. Officials say a Level 1 water emergency would mean a 25% reduction in use, but they've not said how it would be enforced across households and major industry. The council has approved hundreds of millions for an emergency groundwater import, even though key permits are not in place. City manager Peter Zanoni calls it a calculated risk, while Mayor Paulette Guajardo says the city has to plan for the worst. In a small Michigan city, a dispute over a cannabis dispensary has spilled into an open fight at the top of council. MyUpNow.com reports that Menominee City Council has voted 6-1 to condemn the mayor's public statements about the city manager, accusing the mayor, Casey Hoffman, of harassment and defamation. The resolution points to claims that city manager Brett Botbill steered the city into a $20 million lawsuit tied to a dispensary project blocked after a cap on cannabis shops was introduced. Council member Donna Marino says it was a last resort to stop what she calls false claims. Mayor Hoffman says he'll frame the censure as proof his ethics are solid. In Canada, Toronto councillor Chris Moyes has been found to have breached the city's code of conduct after calling a constituent a white supremacist following a budget town hall last year. Integrity Commissioner Paul Muldoon says the exchange crossed the line because the words targeted the constituent personally, even though Councillor Moyes was not obliged to engage. But CTV News reported that Muldoon is not recommending a penalty, citing the context, including months of tension over equity initiatives and the renaming of a city square. Councillor Moyes says he has no regrets, but the complainant wants councillors to impose sanctions. Ashburton ratepayers in New Zealand are bracing for an 8.71% rates rise, and this time they'll not get a full public consultation, according to RNZ. Ashburton District Council says its annual plan stays close to the long-term plan, and it wants to save the roughly $30,000 a formal consult would cost. Mayor Liz McMillan says Three Waters services account for 3.75%, with the rest covering items like a new food and organics bin rollout and debt costs for a second bridge. Councillors are scheduled to revisit the plan on the 8th of April. And in Napier, tensions at the council table are spilling into public view, according to a report from Stuff. Documents show 7 councillors wanted an extraordinary meeting after Mayor Richard McGrath removed Sally Crown as Deputy Mayor and appointed first-term councillor Roger Brownlee without what they call meaningful consultation. The group argued the process fell short of expected governance and flagged a no-confidence motion in how the change was handled. A private meeting followed, with McGrath apologising for any hurt and acknowledging concerns about transparency. Councillors later voted to appoint Graham Taylor as deputy. And that's the latest from the Roundup, edition number 567, recorded on the morning of Wednesday, the 25th of March, 2026. If you have comments or feedback or story ideas, you can send an email to lgweeklynews@gmail.com. Don't forget to check out our brand new website at lgnewsroundup.com. That's where you'll find all the story links that go along with today's episode. Our podcast is brought to you by the Victorian Local Governance Association, the national broadcaster on all things local government, with support from Symphony 3, simple, connected customer experiences, and Rath Engineering Development, smarter local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience. We record in the city of Greater Geelong, Victoria, 3 times a week on the land of the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. Until next time, thanks for listening and bye for now. Support for the Local Government News Roundup comes from Rath Engineering Development, smarter systems for local government, like Red GMS, helping councils manage gravel pits and projects, track quality, test results, blending options and haulage, and know the true cost per tonne from day one. Rath Engineering Development can give you a one-off report that uses your existing pit data to pinpoint the best gravel sources for your next resheeting program or disaster restoration works, saving your council time and money. For local government systems built from real on-the-ground experience, talk to the team at Rath Engineering Development. Head to rathed.com.au to find out more.